Now, have I got an interesting one for you today, guys? FTX, everyone's favorite, multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency exchange fraud. And Molly White, a fan favorite on the channel that runs Crypto Is Going Great and also a great Twitter account, is going over the, key highlights of the FTX bankruptcy records that have just been released by the new team. And basically, if you've not been following along with FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried runs FTX as a crypto exchange, runs Alameda as a crypto hedge fund, basically, and then takes all of people's money that they deposited into FTX and uses it to make risky investments, and then basically loses everybody's money, and is now being charged in the United States with a whole bunch of crimes like fraud, money laundering, the list goes on. So new team's taking control of all the back-end stuff regarding the bankruptcy, because there are still assets somewhere, which is a crazy thing to think about as we go through this. And we're just going to go over some of the key highlights here. The debtors reiterate the stunning lack of record keeping and controls at FTX. Normally, there are readily identifiable records, data sources, and processes that can be used to identify and safeguard assets of the estate. Not so much with the FTX group. Upon assuming control, the debtors found a pervasive lack of records and other evidence at the FTX group of where or how fiat currency and digital assets could be found or accessed, and extensive commingling of assets. As we've just said, basically what was happening was, of course, they were two different businesses, and it should have been the case that all of the crypto exchange business never bled over into Alameda. What everyone rightfully assumed that would, of course, be the legal avenue, what everyone rightly assumed was that their money that was in FTX was just there, waiting for them to take it out at any point. But unfortunately, that was not the reality. FTX executives stifled dissent, commingled and misused corporate and customer funds, lied to third parties about their business, and joked internally about their tendency to lose track of millions of dollars in assets. Just imagine, while you're there thinking, I'm a winner, I've invested in cryptocurrency and I'm going to the moon too because I've hodled, these motherfuckers are just laughing at you. They're just like, oh, where have them millies gone? I seem to have misplaced some of my millies. So from their words, this is hubris, incompetence, and greed. Who would have guessed? All of those things in cryptocurrency, who would have guessed? Who'd have seen that one coming? Debtors are having to cobble together financial records from what they've been able to find in QuickBooks and Slack records. These people had billions of dollars, by the way. Billions of dollars. QuickBooks and Slack records. It sounds like the debtors are limited somewhat by the fact that laptops belonging to Sam Bankman-Fried and other high-level insiders are currently in the hands of the Bahamian Joint Provisional Liquidators. That's a mouthful, Jesus. Who have been less than cooperative according to the US team at least. Nishad Singh, Gary Wang, and Caroline Ellison, all executives at the company, have all pled guilty and are now cooperating with the Department of Justice, making it infeasible for the debtors to interview them for bankruptcy purposes until after the criminal trial is over. They have interviewed others, though. Of course, the criminal proceedings by the US government take precedent on this one. Nothing too crazy there. FTX had a, quote, environment in which a handful of employees had, among them, virtually limitless power to direct transfers of fiat currency and crypto assets and to hire and fire employees, with no effective oversight or controls to act as checks on how they exercise these powers. The inner circle. The FTX group lacked independent or experienced finance, accounting, human resources, information security, or cybersecurity personnel, or leadership, and lacked any internal audit function whatsoever. Board oversight, moreover, was also effectively non-existent. So they had nothing that you'd need to operate a business, and they still managed to raise billions of dollars, and then lose billions of dollars, of course, because if you can do one, you can certainly do the other. Some new context on the sudden resignation of Brett Harrison, 88, in September of 2022. He, quote, resigned following a protracted disagreement after which his bonus was drastically reduced. Oh no, not his bonus. For example, the president of FTX US resigned following a disagreement with Bankman-Fried and Singh over the lack of appropriate delegation of authority, formal management structure, and key hires at FTX US. After raising these issues directly with them, his bonus was directly reduced, and senior internal counsel instructed him to apologize to Bankman-Fried for raising the concerns, which he refused to do. So we now know that this was a complete fraud, that he was raising legit concerns, and the senior internal counsel, which, correct me if I'm wrong, means the lawyer that is, internal to the company. somebody who's been hired on, who's passed the bar, who should be familiar with the situation, told somebody who was the president of FTX US, which is the one that was operating at least a little bit more legally, because it would have to be operating in the US, is saying this is fucked up, there's no management structure or whatsoever, when that was true. And this lawyer's come in and been like, oh, you've got to apologise to Sammy. Sammy's had his fee-fees hurt and they're going to, slash your bonus. Jesus Christ. How's that motherfucker got a job still? In a separate instance, a lawyer who was hired only 3 months prior who learned about the North Dimension bank accounts. What a name for this, though. North Dimension. Jesus. Sounds like some sci-fi shit. We're sorry, guys, but your money went into the North Dimension. There's no bringing it back. He was terminated after expressing concerns about Alameda's lack of corporate controls, capable leadership, and risk management. So at least this lawyer came in and said, you guys are shit. And they went, yeah, but you've not got a job anymore, mate. At the time of the bankruptcy filing, the FTX group did not even have current and complete lists of who its employees were. Jesus. Do you work here? Maybe. Oh, okay, cool. As a general matter, policies and procedures relating to accounting, financial reporting, treasury management, and risk management did not exist, were incomplete, or were highly generic and not appropriate for a firm handling substantial financial assets. This is like the worst thing. Obviously, the crime's actually the worst thing. But just imagine a company being like, we're a crypto exchange, we're a hedge fund, we have billions of dollars of assets, we don't even know who's employed at our company, we don't even know who does what, we've got no idea where all the money is, we don't know what the fuck is going on. It's crazy that this could operate at such a large scale to the point where it was literally on TV. They were running Super Bowl ads, they were sponsoring esports teams, they were buying stadiums, they were doing crazy shit with a whole bunch of money, and nobody knew that this was just a huge scam. The small accounting firm used by FTX entities for most accounting appears to have a small number of employees and no specialized knowledge relating to cryptocurrencies or international financial markets. They just opened the Yellow Pages and saw a listing. It was like, mom and pop accounting services for your small business. And Sam were like, oh, that's perfect, we'll get them on the cheap. We don't know where our money is anyway, so fuck it, we need it. More QuickBooks shade. Quote, 35 FTX group entities use QuickBooks as their accounting system and relied on a hodgepodge of Google documents, Slack communications, shared drives and Excel spreadsheets, and other non-enterprise solutions to manage their assets and liabilities. Jesus. I mean, I know my finances aren't particularly organized and things like that, but I think I even do more than this. And I definitely don't have billions of dollars. 56 entities within the FTX group did not produce financial statements of any kind. Approximately 80,000 transactions were simply left as unprocessed accounting entries in catch-all QuickBooks accounts titled Ask My Accountant. Sam Bankman-Fried, quote, Alameda is unauditable. We are only able to ballpark what its balances are, let alone something like a comprehensive transaction history. We sometimes find $50 million of assets lying around that we lost track of. Such is life. Oh my God. So I'll read this quote. A June 2022 portfolio summary purporting to model cryptocurrency positions held by Alameda stated, with respect to valuation inputs for certain tokens, the Alameda personnel should, quote, come up with some numbers, IDK, meaning for any of the boomers out there, I don't know. Just come up with some numbers, guys, I don't know. In an internal communication, Bankman-Fried described Alameda as hilariously beyond any threshold of any auditor being able to even get partially through an audit, adding, it's unauditable. I don't mean this in the sense of, quote, a major accounting firm will have reservations about auditing it. I mean this in the sense of, we are only able to ballpark what its balances are, let alone something like a comprehensive transaction history. And then, of course, the quote of finding 50 mil just lying around. Why would you ever be saying this? This guy is a fucking complete liability. Thousands of deposit checks were collected from the FTX Group's offices, some stale dated for months due to the failure of personnel to deposit checks in the ordinary course. Instead, deposit checks collected like junk mail. Transfers in the tens of millions of dollars were improved via Slack emoji. What? Or discussed in disappearing Signal or Telegram chats. What does this sentence even mean? Slack emoji. I know what those two words are on their own, and I could hazard a guess what they are together. But in context, I have no idea what this means. Slack, Signal, and other informal communications were frequently used to document approvals. Signal and Telegram were at times utilized in communications with both internal and external parties, with disappearing messages enabled, rendering any historical review impossible. Expenses and invoices of the FTX group were submitted on Slack and were approved by emoji. I'm so confused. So what, they submitted it on Slack and then somebody just posted an emoji back like, yeah, thumbs up. Jesus Christ. Only 4 months after the real estate purchase had closed did the employees enter into a promissory note with Alameda in which he undertook to repay the funds used to purchase the property. Other insiders received purported loans from Alameda for which no promissory notes exist. A promissory note is basically an IOU. I had no idea what this meant, so I just thought I'd Google it and not pretend I knew what it meant. I could have done it and then edited this part out, but I just want to let you know, guys, some of these words, I have no fucking clue what they mean. So there we go. Basically, he was handing out IOUs. Funnily enough, he did that for his entire exchange because they owe people billions of dollars. Accounts were opened using names and email addresses that were not obviously linked to FTX, using pseudonym email addresses in the names of shell companies created for these purposes or in the names of individuals, including individuals with no direct connection to FTX. So this is just straight fraud. This is just straight, you're going to prison, big time fraud. You're opening accounts for people that don't exist, for people that aren't even related to FTX in any way. That's fraud. Alameda also transferred funds to insiders to fund personal investments, political contributions, and other expenditures, some of which were nominally papered as personal loans with below-market interest rates and a balloon payment due years in the future. So we read about this not too long back, and this was added in as the, part of the government's case against Sam Bankman-Fried, because essentially they were using like black payments. I can't remember what the term is, but they were using essentially a way to donate to political campaigns in a manner that is completely illegal. Because you can technically donate through companies and things like that in a way to like obfuscate who's donating, but they were doing it in a specific way that was just straight illegal. The document reiterates previous allegations about Alameda's, quote, unique ability to trade and withdraw virtually unlimited assets on FTX, regardless of the size of its account balance and without risk of its position being liquidated. Yeah. The FTX group had no cybersecurity staff whatsoever. Well, this is not too crazy because we know in cryptocurrency this is like a thing that happens constantly anyway. They rely on these like third-party companies to audit their code, and then they end up getting hacked anyway. So I would imagine if the FTX continued and it never went bankrupt, there would have eventually been the case where they just lost, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars perhaps. And I don't mean lost like, oh, we just misplaced this like they usually did. I mean, somebody actually got access and stole a bunch of people's money. FTX stored private keys to its crypto wallets in AWS. Oh my God. FTX Group stored private keys to its crypto assets in its cloud computing environment, which included over 1,000 servers and related system architecture, services, and database data leased from Amazon Web Services. FTX kept virtually all crypto assets in hot wallets. FTX undoubtedly recognized how a prudent crypto exchange should operate because when asked by third parties to describe the extent of which it used cold storage, it lied. So it said as follows: FTX uses a best practice hot wallet and cold wallet standard solution for the custody of virtual assets. The firm aims to maintain sufficient virtual assets in the hot wallet to cover 2 days of trading activities, which means only a small portion of assets held are exposed to the internet. The remaining assets are stored offline in air-gapped encrypted laptops, which are geographically distributed. The 2-day trading figure is continuously monitored, and if the hot wallet exceeds this amount, it will overflow into the cold wallet. If the figure drops below the 2-day trading figure, the hot wallet will be topped up from the cold wallet. So basically, hot wallet, cold wallet differences. A hot wallet is something that you're constantly using that is online and you have easy access to, and cold wallets are ones that are not connected to any networks and basically can't be exposed to anything whatsoever, and that's where you keep the majority of funds so you don't risk them being hacked or lost or anything else like that. And they weren't using cold wallets at all, they were just lying about it. Was, quote, instructed that this information was not to be shared with regulators unless it was specifically requested. Another FTX Group employee responded that if the question was being posed by non-regulators, then we say 10% in hot wallet, 90% in cold wallet. AKA, my official position is if you're not a regulator, aka someone who can put me in prison, I'm just going to lie and make up numbers. Good idea. Good idea. FTX generally didn't use multi-sigs. When they did, they stored all of the keys together in one place, thus defeating the purpose. Multi-sigs are basically like, typically when you try to log on to like a cryptocurrency wallet, you'll just have like one signature required, signature being your password, your ability to access it. Multi-sigs would be like you obviously just need multiple of those. So you'd usually have them held in different places, multiple people have them. Just basically another fail-safe to limit access of, if one person is compromised then the funds are not compromised because you need all of the signatures to be able to log in the first place. At least that's how I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Debtors give multiple examples of irresponsible key storage. Keys to $100 million or more stored in unencrypted plain text, for example, are in tools unsuitable for the job. Keys were often accessible by many employees with no auditing. Keys were poorly labeled with names like "use this." Holy shit. So plain text, of course, means no encryption whatsoever. It would be like me opening Notepad right now and then typing in my password and then just saving it on my desktop and saying, like, saving it as "this is my password." So anyone who had access to this or saw it with their eyeballs would need no form of, like, bypassing operational security, no formal training whatsoever. They would literally be able to look at this. I just realized I'm not showing you on screen the Notepad, but there we go. They'd have no problem basically just seeing this with their eyes and being able to essentially get access to these wallets, which is fucking insane. Passwords for encrypting the private keys of wallet nodes were stored in plain text, committed to the code repository where they could have been viewed by many and were vulnerable to compromise and reused across different wallet nodes. Over a dozen people had direct or indirect access to the FTX.com and FTX US central omnibus wallets, which held billions of dollars in crypto assets. This guy's going to prison, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt in my mind. If this is just what, civil people that are handling a bankruptcy have access to, what have the government got, mate? What have the government got? FTX didn't enforce use of multi-factor authenticator for Google Workspace or 1Password, which the debtors note is ironic given tweets like this. So Sam Bankman-Fried was tweeting, De La Ramada guys, use 2FA. Two-factor authenticator is really important. They weren't using it and they had your money. FTX failed by any measure to perform basic cybersecurity practices, including creation and collection of logs that record and reflect activity within the computing environment, and systems to alert designated personnel to suspicious activity. I'm surprised they weren't just using a Discord bot. Like, I've gone over it before where, like, decentralized autonomous organizations had tens of millions of dollars, and they were using a Discord bot to, like, alert them when things went wrong. And then when the Discord bot API went down, people just stole all their money. And just nobody knew. They just woke up like, oh, fucking hell, where's all our money gone? They apparently didn't even have that. They had nothing. Due to lack of such controls, the FTX group did not learn of the November 2022 breach until the debtors' restructuring advisor alerted employees after observing, via Twitter and other public sources, that suspicious transfers appeared to have occurred. Unsurprisingly, given their lack of attention to cybersecurity, FTX didn't use any endpoint protection and failed to patch their software, in one case running software nearly 4 years out of date. That's like my computer. Just never do your Windows updates. I'm obviously not holding billions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency though, am I? Nishad Singh was supposed to be in charge of cybersecurity but wouldn't even provide the IT person with ID information of the corporate devices he was using. Why would you? You're just out here straight performing crime. Fuck it. Application secrets that could have transferred billions of dollars worth of crypto assets from hot wallets to third-party exchanges were stored in widely accessible source code repositories. I am honestly super surprised nobody just stole all this money before any of this happened. I mean, I guess technically Sam Bankman-Fried was stealing all the money anyway, so there wasn't really that much money left to steal. I guess that makes sense. FTX was highly vulnerable to supply chain attacks and did not review, test, or otherwise deploy its code in a manner that sufficiently ensured that it was functioning as expected, and free vulnerabilities that might be leveraged by malicious actors. So supply chain attacks is basically where people get access to software you're going to use somewhere along the supply chain, and then essentially it gets introduced into your system. They actually explain it here. So supply chain attacks is where malicious actors insert vulnerabilities into third-party software in order to compromise any organization that uses that software. There was just one recently. Some ordinary gamers did a video on it. I believe it was like the telecommunication system of some of these big companies that do call centers. And basically supply chain attacks are really bad because obviously if you're the company that's using it and you're not auditing the software updates in any kind of way or checking things over, this can basically go completely unnoticed and affect everything in your system. So yeah, that's the Molly White thread. I did see as well, so this is the chart of basically when Alameda got access to the FTX crypto accounts. So you look at what Alameda had access to on 8/1/2019. The blue dot is when Nishad Singh altered the code base to enable Alameda to withdraw unlimited amounts of crypto from FTX. And then you can see how much money they went up to. Immediately, like day after, jumped to $40 million. Eventually jumping up to $240 million. So as you can see here from the quote, Sam Bankman-Fried said Alameda was a wholly separate entity, and Ellison claimed that Alameda was arm's length and did not get any different treatment from other market makers. But in reality, what they'd done is enabled it so that Alameda could use all of the money that was in FTX, all of the people's money, and do whatever they wanted with it with no oversight whatsoever. And that's why this motherfucker's going to prison. And all the people that were involved in this have flipped on him. And I don't know if they're going to go to prison. They definitely should. But these people are all working against Sam Bankman-Fried now. And it looks like he's going to be the one to just get absolutely fucked. Deserved. Thoroughly deserved. By the way, that's a FTX update. Really interesting. It's just awesome that we have access to so much information about this. And I look forward to the criminal trial. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace out.